Hi again, Panther fans, and welcome to the Panther Insider Podcast driven by Ford. This is Dave Cohen, the radio voice of the Panthers. It's great to have you back with us again this week as we talk Georgia State athletics. And on this latest show, coming off a 30-win season a year ago, we welcome head baseball coach Brad Stromdahl back to the Panther radio microphones as we get an update on Georgia State baseball heading into the 2023 college baseball season. Before we get to this week's podcast guests, thanks to all of our Panther fans who have subscribed, rated, and reviewed our first 114 shows. If you've missed any of our previous podcasts, they're all available on our Apple Archives page. You can find that on the website at georgiastatesports.com. Again, we're talking college baseball on this latest Panther Insider podcast, and we'll talk to head coach Brad Stromdahl following these words from Ford and Center Park Credit Union.
Even before the victory celebration is over, great teams are back at it the next day, working to get even better. The team at Ford understands how hard work and dedication pay off. Over the last 30 years, Ford Explorer has been America's best-selling SUV. In fact, all Ford SUVs, like Explorer, Escape, and Edge, are built for victory. Score a great offer today at your local Ford dealer. Based on total cumulative OEM reported U.S. sales for all SUVs from calendar year 1990 through calendar year 2019.
Center Park Credit Union, the official financial sponsor of GSU football, is proud to be a part of the Georgia State community and the Panther Athletics program. Center Park provides members convenient financial services. In addition to online banking, mobile banking, and 7 Metro Atlanta branches, Center Park members have access to 5,000 co-op shared branches and 75,000 surcharge-free ATMs nationwide. To find a location near you, visit online at centerpark.org/contact, and that's park with a C. Not a member? Join today at centerpark.org. At Center Park, we help our members flourish. We're back here in the Panther Insider Podcast driven by Ford. This week we're talking college baseball with Georgia State head baseball coach Brad Stromdahl. And Coach, great to see you again. Here we go. You guys are getting ready for the 2023 campaign. As I mentioned in the open, a 30-win season a year ago. And a lot of familiar faces returning, but yet some key impact players that you've brought in. But good to see you and good to talk a little baseball here at this time of the year.
You too, Dave. It's great to be back here and on the 115th show. It's fabulous. No, we're ready. I mean, we've done such a good job the last few years just continuing to build the product and build the brand and build Georgia State baseball as a whole and, put these guys in a place, in a position to be able to be successful on the national scene and the Sun Belt, and we're just really looking forward to seeing what these guys can do on the field this year. It's a really fun to be a coach at this point in time. As we got in here in 2020, the pandemic hit, and then kind of everybody got shut down for a year and a half. And so from a standpoint of where we are right now, currently with our team moving into the 2023 season, I couldn't be more happy with where we stand and excited about what that looks like, because when you take over a program and just try to change the certain things and make it your own and grow and develop it, it's you have these visions and these things that you look at that you want it to look a certain way, and I think that we've got it in place, and now we have to execute on what that end result looks like. And so, we have the talent, we have the players, and so now it's a matter of just play somebody else besides ourselves on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and in about 9 days we open up, or 10 days we open up, and it's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, they say it's about the journey. Sports fans are always looking for immediate results, as coaches are, but as you just explained, it's about building the program. If I said to you or someone said to you, we're going to put the Brad Stromdahl stamp on the Georgia State baseball program, how would you describe that?
Oh, goodness. I'm not exactly sure what that would look like, other than what you would hope is when you left the game, whether it's on the road or at home, you would say that those guys played hard, They had intent. They did everything they could possibly do within, what they were given that day. Sometimes the ball just bounces a bad way, but you got to keep your head up and keep playing hard. On the flip side too, if you have scored a bunch of runs, you stayed in there, you were positive. And so, that stamp looks like, I don't think the stamp is a singular stamp, if that makes sense. It's much more of a bigger picture, and, over the course of time, that picture kind of comes to light. And so, that's what's exciting, is that you're building and painting a picture, if you will, or, branding something that is going to last here forever, that has some sustainability within what happens in subsequent years. It doesn't matter the personnel that come in and out, coaching staff, players, administration, what you'd like to think over the course of your tenure at an institution with a team, that it looks very similar from year in and year out.
As we talked about in an earlier media gathering, 30 wins a year ago, and I mentioned that in the open at the top of this podcast. 30 wins is one of those benchmark numbers that certain coaches look at. What was it that went down last year, like noticeable or tangible things that happened that got this program up to that 30 win mark a year ago?
I think that Max Ryerson, being able to hit a lot of home runs in the middle of a lineup is a big deal, to be able to win that many games and to be able to do that. But it's also Griffin Chaney, who was a draft pick, a ninth-round draft pick last year. He had 16 home runs and kind of locked down shortstop, third base for us. Seth Clark, who is also plays with the Texas Rangers now. I think that he had a very, very big impact. And, just a lot of the guys that are coming back on this current year's team, from a pitching staff standpoint, from a position player standpoint, they've all been with us for the most part for 3 or 4 years since the beginning, or since the onset. And so, we had a pretty good run our first year going through the SEC East, which was, not exactly the most fun as a coach, but those players got to experience what that was like. And so you would like to think over the course of, their careers, they can look back fondly on those memories and remember what that was like and what it looked like and what it meant. And really, as you move forward, that 30 wins, they're building their brand too. They're painting their picture. Some are going to be drafted, some will be not drafted, but they'll have a family and they'll run a business or whatever they end up doing. But over the course of that time, you'd like to think that those players continue to come out and do it. Cam Jones is another big influential piece of that that history that we've started to write. And then you have guys like Luke Boynton came in last year, and some other players like Cameron Landry. He's going to have a huge impact for us on the mound this year, and kind of had a few starts kind of in and out of the rotation last year, but he's kind of come into his own, and he's going to be able to vie for a Friday night job here coming up. So it's who you plug and play with, and the who comes in, but overall it's a matter of what you really make of it within your experience and within those players, and what you give them the responsibility of being in charge of, which is ideally your team.
You mentioned Griffin Chaney, again now in the Texas Rangers organization, along with Seth Clark in the Rangers organization. One question about the COVID-19 virus, because a lot of programs in a roundabout way benefited. Are you still benefiting at any position or with any players based on the longevity that a player can stay in a program, based on that happening?
No, absolutely. I think that this is the last year of the NCAA rule of the roster limits being increased to 40. There's some legislation out there that's kind of being bounced around to make that the permanent number. But as of right now, we go back to 35 next year. So we're at 40-man roster right now, which is an incredible help. And I think, to my understanding, everybody in the Sun Belt is at 40-man roster too. So, just being able to add that extra 5 players for depth, just even if it's just for practice, you're able to practice differently. You're able to practice more, play more innings throughout the course of the fall and the spring, early on. And so, we've been hugely impacted by that ability to be able to have those guys and the older senior leadership. It's just incredible what a 23-year-old player can do as opposed to an 18-year-old player, and just the 18-year-old player might have more talent and might be able to do everything better, but that 23-year-old will win that game every time. It's just experience and age and just being able to have that many innings under their belt. And so it's going to be fun. It's kind of what Texas State did last year. I mean, they had the experience of I think that there was 18 or 19 guys that were COVID-19 kids and just all super seniors, and good for them. I mean, and they proved that if you have enough of those guys pulling on the same rope in the same direction with the same vision, and really, really good things are going to happen. So, that's why I'm also really highly encouraged, is because we have an older team, and yet we still don't lose a lot of players next year. That's kind of the fun part of this growth period for us, is that, we have really old, mature, some COVID kids that we are going to lose, but kind of the core group as you move forward has been that group since 2020 and 2021, which have kind of like built this program, and this is their legacy, and they've put their names and their stamps on it, and now it's their time to shine, and so it's their time to take this over. And alluded to Cameron Landry a little bit earlier, but it's his time to take over Friday night if he can do it. So it's going to be fun, and it's been a blessing, and I think it's been more of a blessing to us than definitely a curse.
Again, we're talking college baseball and Georgia State baseball with head coach Brad Stromdahl, and we have certainly seen it firsthand in basketball and in football, what I call the new Sun Belt Conference, with the additions of Southern Miss, Marshall, Old Dominion, James Madison. Fortunately, if I heard you correctly earlier, Georgia State does not have to play Southern Miss or Louisiana Lafayette, a pretty good program. But talk a little bit about the Sun Belt, what it was a year ago when we were at Montgomery in that tournament. And, of course, it didn't end the way we wanted to. And what the league looks like now with the addition of these four as far as a baseball conference.
No, it's wonderful. I think that the Sun Belt, from the upper echelons of this decision makers and coming in here with the conference realignments and what have you, has made the Sun Belt baseball conference an unbelievably strong conference. And so, the addition of James Madison, Marshall, Old Dominion, and Southern Miss and Old Dominion being two relatively perennial regional teams. Couple that with Texas State, Louisiana, South Al, obviously Georgia Southern. There's some really good teams in this league. And so teams that have postseason experience, teams that have won postseason conference tournaments, have gone to regionals, have been in regionals, have won multiple games in regionals. There's a prediction for the most part that 5 or 6 teams from our conference every single year will get an at-large berth, which if you kind of look at the, if you look at the bigger picture of the conferences themselves and how many teams are able to get into the 64-team tournament, it puts us in the upper echelon of either 4th or 5th most in the country. And so, that would be considered a Power 5 conference from our standpoint, and facilities are being built all over the place by, everybody in the conference. And so, it's a really fun time to be a part of this institution. Be a part of this kind of initiation into the next realm. And, I think that there's going to be some little bumps along the road for some of the teams that are coming in, because I don't think that they fully understand how difficult this conference was last year. I mean, just kind of alluding to your question, is that this conference is really, really good all the way from top to bottom. And so being able to get through Coastal Carolina and through Louisiana Lafayette and Texas State and Georgia Southern and South Al and us, and I think that the teams have such a unique each team is so unique, and you go to Louisiana Monroe, what they're going to do. They're going to bunch and they're going to run and they're going to have sidearm pitchers and they're going to be kind of funky, and you have to be a really creative team to be able to go in there and win. They play on probably the largest field in the conference. And so you can't go there, hit home runs. You have to play small ball. Then you go to a place like Coastal Carolina where the wind just blows straight out and you hit a pop-up and it can be a home run. And if you're not up 10 or 12, you're not really safe at all. And you kind of, the same thing holds true for us, and then you bring in Southern Miss, which has, an incredible fan base. Georgia Southern is, same thing with an incredible fan base. And so you just kind of go along you just go down the line of conferences. It's a really tough place to play. It's hard to get to Boone, North Carolina. It's a tough place to go. You can't fly in. You got to get a bus. You got to go up a backside of a mountain, and and then you got to play in altitude with wind and weather, and it's fun, And so I think that's one of the reasons why the national media and the people that are in charge of kind of like determining where regionals go and who is a regional team is they understand that if you get through the Sun Belt Conference itself, that in and of itself is a very, very unbelievable achievement because of the things that have already been stated. And so it's going to be a really fun, exciting year for this year, and I'm looking forward to the tournament in Montgomery. It's going to be very similar. 10 teams get in. There's going to be a single elimination game with 7 through 9 or 7 through 10, and then it's going to be an 8-team tournament. And so, it's going to be a really, really kind of how many wins can you get in the tournament will probably determine how many teams get in the regional, if that makes sense. So I think the top 4 will probably just be an at-large, with obviously the tournament winner, being the bid. But, if you're a team that's floundering around 32, 33, 40, 34 wins, and you can win 3 or 4 games in that tournament, I think it says, hey, we deserve a chance to be in a regional. So that's why I think it's cool. We have 2 chances to get in a regional, in my opinion. One's in the tournament just to win some games, and then the other one is obviously your overall record.
All right, you mentioned it a moment ago with regards everybody's building facilities, and of course all the talk around here is eventually building a brand new baseball facility on the site of the old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium site. And I may have asked you this question a year ago when we sat and did our preseason Panther Insider podcast. Any update that you've heard in your circles with regards to a timeline for a new stadium for Georgia State baseball?
It's still an evolution. It's still pretty fluid with a lot of different moving pieces. But I know that, we held an event at basketball about 3 weeks ago to a month ago, just kind of like, hey, we're here. This is what we're going to do. Here are some plans. This is where we're going. I think that within the next couple of weeks, we'll have a lot better idea of what's happening on the ground floor. But, holes have been dug and soil's been tested, and now it's a matter of whether or not it's almost like we just have to get through the bureaucracy of a little bit of, A to B to C to D. Everybody has to connect the dots. And so I'm very optimistic for, a stadium being here in the very, very near future, and looking forward to that process once we get the first backhoe in there and try to move some dirt. So but overall, everybody is on the same page, like you said, and moving forward, and we are exponentially closer than we have ever been here at Georgia State baseball. And I think that the conference realignment and all the things we've discussed are all elements that go into that.
Definitely exciting. Hoping to see that stadium emerge from the ground on the site of the old Atlanta Fulton County Stadium, having a Georgia State baseball stadium on that historic site. Let's delve in real quick. I want to talk to you about the schedule. Once again, you've gone, semi-aggressive on the schedule. It's an exciting schedule, but let's talk a little bit about personnel-wise this year. With what you're looking at out of the gate. Obviously, things will change as the season moves along and, from series to series and game to game.
Sure. No, I think that we have alluded to just a lot of depth on our team. So, obviously Max Ryerson's coming back. Most likely he'll be a DH left fielder. Hit 23 home runs last year. He's just fifth-year senior, has all of that experience, and he'll definitely hit in the middle of our order, probably three or four, I would assume. Cam Jones, he's going to be center field, right field potentially. He was I think he finished third last year in the John Allrood voting for dual player player of the year with pitcher and position player. And so he'll hit in the top 3 of the order as well. He's a good leadoff hitter. He's kind of hit anywhere for us, and he'll kind of fall into where he's needed to fall in, to mix up him and Luke Boynton, who is a big first baseman for us, and he'll probably play first base most of the time. So, it'll be some combination of Boynton, Jones, Ryerson, or Ryerson, Jones, Boynton, and Matt Ruiz starting shortstop for us this year. He'll start there, and he could play third. He's been a third baseman in his past, transferred in from South Florida. Really unbelievable kid, just knows the game, has a really, really high IQ of where to go and where to be and where the ball is going to go. It's kind of uncanny, just kind of knows where to be all the time. And so, he'll also probably hit in the top 5, either lead off or in the 5 hole. And then Michael McGinnis, he's a transfer former football quarterback out of Sanford. He's from down the street in Noonan. I think that he's going to have an impact for us. I'm not exactly sure where he'll hit in the lineup, but he's going to probably start out at third base and, just grow. I mean, he's one of those kids that comes in that's just super high character, super IQ baseball wise, and just really knows kind of the game, but yet he's still a redshirt freshman. And so he has a lot of growing to do, but he'll make an immediate impact for us and our team. Jesse Donahoe, a sophomore, will be at second base to start off the season. Left-handed hitter, has really grown. It's kind of goes back to, our core group of guys moving forward. They're still going to be with us. Jones and Ruiz and Donahoe and Boynton and McGinnis. Pearson's going to be in right field. So really the only guy that we really lose this year position player-wise, it will be Max Ryerson, alluding not the draft and all that other stuff. But, Jesse's a sophomore out of Columbus High School. Had his little moments last year here and there, was able to start, was able to get some at-bats, and I think that he's going to do an unbelievably great job holding down second base, and helps us with a left-handed hitter in our ballpark as well. And so, and then we have 3 or 4 catchers. Kyle Hilton's returning. We have a redshirt freshman in Colin Heineck. And we have a couple other guys that, are really good players that are also dual players. They have a different position. Brennan Hudson is a left-handed hitter. He's hit a number of home runs this past fall, and is really kind of vying for a spot as a true starting freshman in the lineup. And so we'll see what we can do with that. Same thing with Cam Douglas. Won a state title last year with Woodstock High School as a pitcher outfielder. He's a dual player for us as well. And so, it's kind of, we need a little bit of time to figure out who kind of fits into where and who's ready for the lights when they turn on. So, I feel very, very optimistic about our offense and, what it means this year to play, what they bring to the team next year as we continue to, grow this program and continue to get better. And on the pitching side, Ryan Watson, I think it's not a shoe-in for Friday night, but, he has the experience. I think this is his 6th year with COVID and all the redshirt stuff that go into it. And, he's 94, 97, and, he's really done a good job. And, he didn't have to come back. He could have gone on and played independent ball or professional baseball and signed a free agent contract, but he decided to come back, finish his master's degree, and do some things here that he had business that was undone. And so really looking forward to what opportunities he's able to get this year. We spoke about Cameron Landry a little bit. I think that he's a star in the rising. Joseph Brandon, again, same thing as Ryan Watson, just a really old kid. He was here in 2019 as a freshman, kind of the same path. I think that he's going to be in the mix for starting rotation. And then, Mason Patel, who's done it. He was a starter last year for us. I think he's right there in the conversation for top 3. And then Duncan Lutz has really proven that he's done a good job over the last couple weeks or couple months. He's a 94, 95, 96 kid, been able to command the strike zone a lot better and go from there. And then there's, Zach Ottinger, the transfer from West Virginia, Nick Lohman, who It looks like he's going to be on the back end as well, transfer from Missouri. And he was here last year with us, only got 6 innings. So looking forward to some of what these guys can do. And, Chad Treadway. I mean, there's so many kids that have been here and have had experience within our team, within our program, within our system, within the Sun Belt that, we just need to get out there and play and kind of see what kind of shakes out and see where we're at.
Again, talking college baseball, Georgia State baseball with Coach Brad Stromdahl. February 17th, 18th, 19th, you open up with the Bearcats of Cincinnati. Brown is in here the following weekend. You got Presbyterian every year, Kennesaw State, Georgia Tech, home and home, Georgia home and home. You got a 3-game series up at Clemson. Don't forget about Mercer. You're never one, as you mentioned earlier, to shy away from a challenging schedule. And it's not the SEC East, but you've put together a very, very good non-conference schedule, knowing what you're going to face once you get to Sun Belt Conference play.
No, absolutely. And we've talked about this multiple times over the past few years, is that if you don't put your players in a position to be challenged, when the challenge actually comes, they won't be ready. And so, we need the figurative get punched in the mouth a little bit and see how we react, to Cincinnati and Clemson before we get in there to the big boys of the conference. But, I think they're all winnable games. I think that we have a team and we have a system that's ready to be able to go in there and get challenged, but also to be able to hit back a little bit better than we have maybe in the past. And so, I think that the schedule is everything. I think it's everything going forward, and I think it's part of why we have an opportunity to be able to be considered a regional team if we're not able to win the conference tournament. And so I think that those elements of challenge and of going to Coolray Field to play Georgia and Georgia Tech midweek, put our players in a position to be able to experience what it's like to be in a regional, to be the home team at a regional, to be the visitor at a regional, to be at a ballpark that's filled with, people that don't like you, which is exactly what you want. You don't want a kid that has never experienced what it's like being at LSU and 7,000 people are screaming at them that they hate them. And that we don't want that to be the first time. We want it to be something to where they've experienced it before. They've been in a position where, it's big lights and big TV and, people around and media. And, you have to be able to perform on the highest stage when it means the most. And I think that the schedule and what we try to do to prepare our kids gives us as much preparation as possible before they actually get to that stage.
And big radio, right?
Oh, absolutely, Dave.
Well, we've got a schedule of games on ESPN+, hopefully a schedule of games on local radio, so we'll look forward to that. Your locker room here at Center Park Stadium is the Atlanta Braves' old locker room, for anyone that's not listened to one of our podcasts or interviews before. And I'm not sure if you're a locker room billboard type guy, but preseason in the Sun Belt Conference, Georgia State selected 9th. I know you could care less, but is that good billboard material for your players to look at each day when they come in the locker room and walk over to their locker, just to know what their peers kind of think about what's going on?
Sure. No, I mean, it's, it is silly because it's part of what we need to drive the media, and I'm all in. Like I'll be 9th every day, every preseason. But what we talk about year in and year out is continuing to change this program so that we aren't looked at as, oh man, they're just a fill-in. Where should we put Georgia State? Because that's where 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fall. It's like, oh, where should we put them? Oh, let's just throw them 9th. I mean, we used to be 11th, so we're moving up in the world from that standpoint. But, our job is to change that entire mentality. And, I think that it takes multiple years. It takes multiple seasons. I think that, over the course of time, that will continue to go up. But, it's the show. I mean, we go from 11th to 9th. And, when teams leave the field, we want them to fully not understand what just happened. And we want them to go, how did we just lose to Georgia State? when in reality, the coaches are like, man, that's one of the hardest places to play. That team's tough. That team's all the things that like that rubber stamp is all about. And what we want to do is be able to go and continue to, show everybody else outside of the conference that this is for real. What we are doing is changing college baseball from a mid-major standpoint, because we can play with the big boys no matter what. You can have a field that's off campus right now, and you can still be a top 25 team. I mean, it's something that, the recruiting coordinator, Nico Bunteo, and Lars Davis and Chad Bell, our pitching coach, and, just like what we have done as a coaching staff is put together something that hopefully will continue to, age well and be looked at as a model. And the previous coaches before us did it, Matt Taylor and, Brandon Frazier, and the guys that have been here. I mean, we're all a part of this this forward moving Georgia State baseball, bulldozer. It's just we're moving slow now, but we have to make sure that it's done right. But on the flip side, I think that being in the conversation for a top 50 team, to be in the conversation to potentially be a top 25 team if this team can win some games in year 3 with COVID is crazy to talk about. And so I'm looking forward to it. We could be 9th or 8th or 12th or 1st. It doesn't matter. It's a matter of just being able to go out there and play pitch to pitch and, just play where your feet are.
Coach, always a pleasure talking baseball and college baseball with you. Look forward to seeing you out at the ballpark at Panthersville and a couple of times this year out at Coolray Field up at Gwinnett.
It's going to be fun, Dave, and I thank you for your support and all the listeners out there. And, just come out and join us and support us. And, hopefully we can continue on where we left off last year and win a whole bunch of games and have some fun.
All right. I want to thank baseball coach here at Georgia State, Brad Stromdahl, for joining us on our latest Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. As a reminder to Panther fans, again, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. We're back again soon. We'll have another special guest on the Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. So for head baseball coach Brad Stromdahl, Dave Cohen saying thanks for listening. We'll see you out at the ballpark at Panthersville, and go Panthers!